Our devotional thought comes from Mark chapter 8, verses 31 to 38 today. And it must have been a rough day for Peter, because Jesus really kind of got after him a little bit. Beginning with verse 31. Then Jesus began to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things and be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, the teachers of the religious law. He would be killed, but 3 days later he would rise from the dead. And as he talked about this openly with his disciples, remember, Jesus walked in integrity. There was transparency. He talked about this openly with his disciples. Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Jesus turned around and looked at his disciples, then reprimanded Peter. "Get away from me, Satan," he said. "You are seeing things merely from a human point of view and not God's." Then calling the crowd to join his disciples. Now we're no longer a private conversation. He said, "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way. Take up your cross and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you'll lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of the good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in this adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with his holy angels." Now notice the human point of view. I have no question that Peter loved Jesus, but he was looking at things from a human point of view. I have no question that Peter was completely sincere, but he was looking at things from a human point of view. Now, at some point you have to realize, number one, that the human point of view is Satan's point of view. It's not God's point of view. You cannot go and go, well, God's point of view is holy, Satan's point of view is sinful, and the human point of view is neutral. No, the human point of view is Satan's point of view. There is God's point of view, and then there's everything else, okay? It's really kind of black and white like that, beloved. It's God's point of view or it's Satan's point of view. And that's the choice in life. Now, look at God's point of view. God says, give up your own way and take up the cross. Take up your cross. Take up the will of God for your life. Give up your own desires, your own ambitions, your own, this is how I want to live my life. You give all of that up to follow Jesus. You give up your life for Jesus and for the sake of the gospel. You look at your soul as more valuable than all the gold and riches and Mercedes-Benzes and Bentleys and Bugattis and Lamborghinis in the world. Your soul is more valuable than anything that this world has to offer. I mean, please forgive me. Jesus died for you. God gave his only begotten Son. That's how valuable your soul is. And we must never be ashamed of Christ and his sufferings. In the middle of a world that is adulterous, in the middle of sin, we must never be ashamed of the sacrifice of our Savior on the cross. We must never be ashamed of what he has said or what he had to go through. Now, beloved, let me just put it real simple. There's God's point of view, which is give up your way, pick up his will. Lay down your life for Jesus and the sake of the gospel. Your soul is more valuable than anything in this whole world, and never be ashamed of Jesus, no matter how the world talks about Jesus. That is God's point of view. Everything else is of the devil.